Welcome, friends, on this third day of this 3-day session of this meditation workshop. I'm very happy to have met all of you here, and I find in the last 2 days many of you were able to join me in some short sessions of meditational practice. The idea of doing short sessions was so that we do not end up just talking about the subject, but realize it's a practical subject, and the path of the masters is not something merely to be read about, discussed. It has to be practiced through meditation. Without meditation, we do not verify any of the truths that have been written in these books. If we keep on reading the books and think we have reached somewhere, we do not go anywhere. It is like reading a guidebook about Hawaii and the Waikiki beach and keep on reading every day. You don't reach the beach, you don't get the experience of the beach. But what we do with the scriptures is we keep on reading, and we think that the reading is going to give us salvation. That the more we read, the more enlightened we are. Actually, it can be the exact opposite of that. The more we read, the more egoistic we can become, more arrogant we can become, that we have read so much. And we argue with people, I know more than you, I've read all these books. So reading of books does not always enhance our state of enlightenment. Sometimes it can hide our enlightenment behind our own ego. And because reading itself can give us some guidelines, can give us some indication what to do. But you have to do what it says. We read books, we don't do what the books say. So that's why it's very important to make this path experiential. That means you must practice what you read, must practice what you hear. And that's why even in these short sessions we have here, I always make it a practice that we should do some practical meditation. We'll do some more today so that you get used to something that you will be doing every day. As I explained yesterday and the day before, the path is very simple. The spiritual path is very, very simple. It's merely pulling our attention from this world and putting it within our own self, behind the eyes. It's as simple as that. Bulle Shah, one of the great mystics, says, Rabda ki pana, etho putna, ethe lana. He says, how? It's not difficult to find God. Just pull your attention from here and put it here. He makes it so simple, in one sentence. And that's the truth, but the difficulty only comes because when we try to put our attention behind the eyes, all the different attachments we have created, they are like ropes, like little threads that are tying us down. When we try to sit there, every rope pulls us out. And things we have forgotten, we can remember when we try to meditate. People we don't think of normally, they all come to mind when we are trying to meditate. It's the pull of the outside attachments that makes it difficult. Though a simple process becomes difficult because of our mental attachments. Now the problem is that there is no way to practice detachment. If somebody says, from tomorrow I will not be attached to anything, it doesn't work. Because the more you try to think of that to which you are detaching, the more attached you get. For example, I loved Shakey's pizza when I came here. Now supposing I want to say, I don't want Shakey's pizza, I don't want Shakey's pizza. I'm thinking more of Shakey's pizza. Actually, I'm getting more attached. You cannot practice detachment. Therefore, it becomes a difficulty that attachment is creating a problem and we cannot practice detachment. How do we go about it? The answer is, it is not the practice of detachment that can help us, but the practice of an alternate attachment, an attachment to something else. And that happens all the time. When we are attached to one thing and we get attached to another thing, more attached to the other thing, we forget the first one. So it's the attachment that can create a detachment, not the other way around. So that is why, that's another role that a perfect living master performs in our life, that he enables a being, a person like ourselves, to be attached to. So when we are attached to a master, it automatically pulls our attachments away from others. It is only by a new attachment that we can have the experience of detachment. And that is why the master's love has to be experienced by us. We have to feel that pull. And that pull comes from the unconditional love of a master. His love is so unconditional. Very soon we begin to find this is something different. There is no judgment involved. There are no questions of whether you are good or bad involved. The masters know we are all good and bad. We all are good and bad. If we were not good and bad, we wouldn't be here. You have to be good and bad to be human. The masters know that. So the masters are not making any judgment on who is good and bad. Their judgment is how long you have been trapped in this business of good and bad. How long you have been trapped in this law of karma here. How long you have been seeking to get out from this mess. And what a strong seeker you are. How intense is your desire to get out from here. On that basis, they say, let's take you back now. Your time has come. And when they do that, then they show unconditional love. The more you associate with a perfect living master, the more you feel the experience of an unconditional love that pulls you. That automatically attaches you to the master. And when you practice meditation with dhyan, contemplation of a master, it takes you further into the master's attachment, and the other attachments become detached. So the practice of detachment is by experiencing an alternate, a different attachment. And that is why people sometimes do not realize that it is not easy to push away things, but you have to be pulled in the other direction, and then only you go. I also mentioned to you the importance of satsang, importance of getting together and thinking of master, thinking of the spiritual path. Satsang is not where we just narrate stories. Satsang is where remembering the master and the path helps us to concentrate our attention better when we meditate after that. Therefore, I also suggested that satsang should be followed by meditation. And when should you meditate? Question very frequently asked. Which is the best time to meditate? When we were in India in the Dera, in Great Master's time, he used to say that 3 o'clock in the morning is a very good time to meditate. The reason he gave for that time was that the dawn hasn't come and the day hasn't broken and everybody is sleeping, you are awake, you get a peaceful time to meditate. And by the time other people wake up, you have completed your morning, 2.5 hours, 2 hours, whatever you can do in the morning, you have done it. He also recommended that in order to make the mind get habituated to the repetition of the Simran or the mantra, you should do a short session of meditation, maybe about half an hour before going to sleep. So he said you could break your meditation time between the early morning and before going to sleep. And that was a good idea. It worked. And somebody said, Master, said to the great master, Master, you are so powerful, you can give whatever you want. Why are you making these hungry, thirsty people wait so much and tell them, meditate, do this? Just go and give what you want to. Give the goodies you are carrying all the time. He said, I carry a basket of goodies every morning at 3 o'clock. And I carry it with me and I find everybody sleeping. Nobody is ready to take it. So I come back with the goodies in my basket. If people were awake, ready to receive, I would distribute them there. For some people, he was particularly keen that we should get up in the morning at 3 o'clock. So he had his cane like this, little better looking cane, but still a cane. And he would come in the morning at 3 o'clock. In the summer, we were all sleeping outside on little cots because it was very hot. There was no air conditioning or anything there. So we used to have our little beds, cots taken out, and we would sleep outside in the dera. And he would come walking with his cane and find us sleeping. He'd nudge us with this, wake up, 3 o'clock. And we say, oh, sorry, master. And we would get up and say, yes. We would sit up on the bed and look when he goes away. And we would just turn the corner and we go to sleep again. He was too clever. He would come back. Come back again. I know you are still sleeping. And then we couldn't sleep after the second wakefulness. Those are experiences which we remember made him so human, made him such a friend, made him like different, made him a different kind of being for us. So the best time is when there's least disturbance. But in those people living in big cities, there's disturbance all the time. There are jobs being done here in the West, which are different hours of work. So he did say that depending upon your jobs, you can modify these timings. Supposing you have night duties, then you can't meditate at 3 in the morning. You meditate during the day. In fact, you can meditate anytime you like. But the main emphasis was that the meditation by sitting up and closing your eyes and ears and going inside is only a small part of meditation. Meditation is a lifestyle. Meditation is not merely sitting up for a little while. Meditation is to think of the Master all the time. Meditation is to repeat the words of Simran all the time, whenever you can, to make it a habit for the mind. The mind has the habit of making habits. It gets habitual things. When the mind is habitually repeating those words, the words come automatically. And then you move to the next step. If your attention is in repeating the words, then you are losing a lot of your attention in the first exercise of trying to repeat the words. If you make your mind habituated to repeating the words, by constantly repeating while walking, while cooking, while doing other things in life, then the mind repeats those words automatically. You can then move faster towards other things, like conversation with the Master during meditation, like thanking him for everyday happenings, which look miraculous once we begin to see the great coincidences and miracles happening in our life. And we can immediately see that but for the Master's hand, those things would not happen. And we thank him for all those daily gifts that he gives us. All this is part of meditation. Even to thank the Master is part of meditation. So part of meditation is that we think about the Master, think about this, and that cultivates love and devotion. People ask me, when you constantly say, meditation should be done with love and devotion, it doesn't work otherwise. How can we develop love and devotion? And I say, you cannot develop love and devotion. You cannot develop love. Our experience of love is attachments to the world. Attachment is not love. There's a fundamental difference between attachment and love. In attachment, you are conscious of your own self. When you say, I love you, do you realize that you're placing I before you, and the eyes, you're conscious of I more than you're conscious of you? And if the response is not good, after saying I love you, you can also say, then I also hate you. This is not love, this is trying to build an attachment. It's an ego trip. It's virtually an ego trip when we talk so much of I doing things. I love this, I love that. The word love is being misused. It's only an ego trip for attachments. Love is when you forget the I and you only think of you. When the you occupies your consciousness and I is not there, that's love. I have tried to see what parts of consciousness, what activities in consciousness can take the ego back. Everything we do puts the ego forward. I have done this, I want to do this, I want to go there, I want to achieve this. I is there everywhere. The ego is there everywhere. The only thing that I found in the whole of life that puts the ego on the backbench is love. When you love somebody, the beloved takes the place of the I, and the I is pushed back. Love is a very powerful thing. Love is the most powerful thing. But the love is, true love is where the beloved takes over, even your ego and the I. And that's what happens. Since we are not practicing that, we don't know how to do that. Therefore, we cannot love. Then how do we have love and devotion? We respond to the love of the Master. As we find in daily life, how Master is extending his love, giving us all the gifts that we get on a daily basis, and we respond to that, which is devotion. When we get devoted to a Master, then we have the experience of love and devotion. Love is a Master's love for us. Devotion is our response to his love. That's why they always say love and devotion. They don't say only love or only devotion. They say do your meditation with love and devotion. It's an experience where when you experience the love of the Master, that's the love, and you are devoted in response, that's love and devotion. It's love and devotion that really matters. How do you develop it? Just think of the Master at all times. And even I said yesterday, have a conversation with the Master. Some people pointed out to me yesterday that if we try to imagine the face of a Master, we could go wrong. Because we could be just imagining a face, and it's not the Master at all. In fact, it could be our mind, it could be a negative power, it could be a negative entity misleading us. How can we be sure that just by imagining the Master's face or the Master's image, that we are really in touch with the Master and not deceiving ourselves through our mind and through any negative entities around us? The answer is already given, simple, that when the Master initiates us and gives us these words to repeat, these words are charged with the power to prevent negativity from coming in. Any time you repeat those words, even an imaginary figure of Master cannot come in. Try it out. The eyes and the forehead of a Master will not appear if you are repeating the words given to you by a perfect living Master, even if you try to imagine them. You can try it out. I and my friends have tried all our life. It doesn't work. Mind cannot make it up. If the mind can make it up, that's not charged words then. Why do we call the words of Simran charged by a Master? Because that's the charge he does. That's the power he puts into those words and makes them magical words. They become magical because they do not allow any negativity to come in, not even one made up by your own mind. You cannot even imagine the eyes and the forehead of a Master if you are repeating those words which the Master has given us. Therefore, there's a safeguard. You will see that there's a safeguard provided to us throughout the spiritual journey, that we may not go wrong. We may not go into negative territory. So long as the words charged as a Simran given to us by a Master are being repeated, we can't go wrong. Therefore, those words have to be repeated. If you habituate your mind to repeat those words, you're protected all the time. The mind keeps on repeating them, and you then do other things like conversations. It's a nice practice to see that the words are being repeated. On top of it, you can still have a conversation with your Master. And then you are sure you're having conversation with the Master. In the beginning, it is difficult to even imagine the face of a Master completely. I recognize that. It takes time even for that. Though we think we can imagine any face, try to imagine the face of a Master. It's more difficult than imagining any other face. Therefore, there is a difficulty in the beginning. But don't forget, even if you cannot see the Master, and you are repeating the words, the Master is there, but you cannot see. You can still talk to him, but you won't get an answer, because the answer could be made up by your mind. But you can still tell him what you want to tell. Don't wait for an answer. It's like prayer. When we pray, what do? We pray to God. Prayer is to ask for something and then stop. Prayer does not require an answer. Supposing you expect the prayer to be answered, that's a business transaction. It is not a prayer anymore. A prayer is one where you ask and leave it. to God, to the Master, to anybody whom you are praying to take care of it. So therefore, it's not a one-way conversation like we might think. It's just that we cannot hear the other side and we only see one way. So that is why when we have conversation, even in the beginning of our practice, one should not worry that you can't get the answers at that time. But answers do come. Answers come in the form of coincidences in your life. They come, as I mentioned yesterday, you open a book, and the first line you read is an answer to your question of yesterday. And you wonder how it came. You're driving your car, and there's an ad on a billboard on the road, and it's answer your question. And you wonder how this come. Small things like this happen, and the actual context may be unrelated, but a part of it is giving the answer. So you know there is something going on. Masters can give answers through coincidences, and they can give answers to many ways when you can't hear the answer directly in your head. Of course, if you are able to establish the face of the Master inside and hold it steady, which takes time also. I know during practice, in the beginning, the Master's face appears and fades, sometimes seems to come near, sometimes seems to go far. Eventually it settles down and becomes close and is always with you then. The radiant form of the Master, once it appears, is a permanent friend. Then you can have a complete conversation inside. Don't need to look anything. Of course, coincidences will keep on happening to tell you that the magic is going on, that miracles are happening, and the Master is at work for you. But in any case, you should be able to have a conversation with the Master at that stage without any difficulty. These are just different phases, different stages. Great Master said, on the spiritual path, don't be impatient. Don't be in a hurry. We have been sitting in this state, born and reborn again and again, for centuries, for millennia, maybe for millions of years. We have no idea how long we have been trapped in this. And to get out of it in a lifetime, in a couple of lifetimes, in 3-4 lifetimes, in that context of the big time frame in which we have been trapped, is nothing. From the Master's point of view, it's a very short period to go back in a lifetime. Whereas we get initiated, we say, Master, it's been 2 months, I've got nothing. Well, we're taking into months and we're taking into years, whereas the problem that is being solved existed for millions of years. So we have to be patient. Another reason for being patient. If you are in a great hurry and you get an experience too fast, it can be frightening because we are not used to it. We are currently not aware of what happens to us after death. Therefore, we are afraid of death. Almost everybody I meet is afraid of death. So very few exceptions I see who say we are not afraid of death. But those who are afraid of death, when they meditate, if the attention is pulled out too fast, they feel they are going to die. And they stop meditation. It happened close in my own family, my father, who was such a good disciple of great Master, Ishwar Puri. When he got initiated, and he had the first experience of the attention being pulled out, he got so frightened that he was going to die. He stopped meditation. And he went back to great Master and he said, Master, I'm not going to do this meditation. I was going to lose my life. You didn't tell me that this meditation makes you really die. And great Master laughed and told him that, look, to the best of my knowledge, nobody has ever died in meditation. They have not even died a natural death in meditation. Secondly, if you die, if your attention is pulled off, what do you expect to see? He said, I expect to see you. I expect to see the Master. Then why are you worried? Why are you afraid? Then you go ahead and meditate. Don't do it in such a hurry. Don't be impatient. Take it stage by stage. When you do meditation and the attention is pulled out stage by stage, you lose your sense of where the hands and feet are. Next day you lose the sense of where the legs have gone. The next day you feel a little more. You get so used to it, it doesn't bother you. And by the time you are able to vacate your whole body by pulling the attention to the third eye center, you don't mind it at all. That's why great master himself recommended that you should do it stage by stage, what he called darja badarja. In Punjabi, he said, darja badarja, jana chahiye. Not that you should say, I want to jump all the way, I'm impatient to see that. Because we are not used to it. So there's a good hint given to us that don't be impatient, take it easy, and go stage by stage. I also mentioned a story of, in a smaller gathering, the story of Baba Jamal Singh, who was great master's master. And you have heard the story before, but I can repeat it again because it has some significance for us. Baba Jamal Singh, as a disciple of great master, of Swamiji, who was his master. His master was Swamiji Seth Shivdayal Singh from Agra. He got initiated from there. And he was living in Punjab. And Swamiji was living in Agra, in Uttar Pradesh, in UP, at quite a distance from Punjab. So it was not easy at that time to just travel all the time to go there. So they would make an appointment by writing letters. So Baba Jamal Singh wrote to Swamiji, Swamiji, I am suddenly feeling so much anxious to meet you. I am missing you so much. My heart wants to go run and see you. Please give me some time so I can see you. I am really missing you. He sent that letter. And Swamiji wrote back. Letters took a lot of time in those days. After a month, the reply comes. My dear son, Babu Jamal Singh, I am very happy to receive your letter. And I am very glad to know that your soul is roaming around in Khand Brahmand. And Jamal Singh said, my soul is going nowhere. This must be a letter meant for somebody else. Swamiji might have made a mistake. And he thought it is for me. And he sent this letter. So he wrote again. He said, beloved Master Swamiji, I must tell you, the letter you wrote to me was not for me because my soul does not go anywhere. I was just missing you and I'm still missing you. I just want to be with you. Please give me time to come to Agra and see you. After another wait of a month, another reply comes. My beloved son, Jamal Singh, I have received your second letter. I am very happy to know that your soul is roaming around in Khand Brahmand. So far as coming to Agra is concerned, come in the first week of next month, I will see you. With these two letters in hand, Jamal Singh goes to Agra and presents them to Swamiji. He says, Swamiji, these letters were not for me because my soul was not going anywhere. And you addressed them to me. Swamiji laughed and said, Jamal Singh, let us go inside and meditate for a little while. There were 10 or 12 people, disciples of Swamiji, sitting outside. They both, Swamiji and Jamal Singh, went inside the little hut that they had. And after about half an hour, they both came out. And then Swamiji asked, Jamal Singh, now tell me, when I wrote those letters, was your soul not going around in the higher regions? Jamal Singh said, yes, Master. Swamiji said, I am not asking if during this session of half an hour of meditation, your soul went up. I am asking, when I wrote those letters, was your soul not going into Khand Brahmand? He said, yes, Master, it was at that time. Then Swamiji turned to the other people who were sitting there and he said, when you miss your master so much that you can't do without going to see him, where is it coming from? It's the ascent of the soul inside, but you're blindfolded. You do not see where you have gone. The masters can blindfold you and let you do your worldly work, whereas you miss the master so much. And that's coming from where? Coming from an ascent of the soul inside, ascent of attention inside. To outside, you don't see it because there is no spectacle. There is no vision about what is happening. And then Swamiji explained that masters deliberately do this sometimes so that your karmic work The work you have to do in this world for your living, for your taking care of family, for taking care of your karmic obligations can be done. Because it may happen that if your attention goes and you see there, you may never like to come back and do anything. And then the whole karmic pattern gets postponed to another time. They want you to finish your account, and they help you to finish the account. Masters help you to finish the account you have, karmic account, while you are still in this world. And this is one of the ways of helping. They also lighten the burden in other things, which if it is too much. But this is one way that they can put blindfolds, so you don't get stuck there and say, no, I can do the rest afterwards. They say, no, finish your karma. It's only a light karma, because now it's not for all the previous karmas. It's only for this one life's karma. What you have pralabdha. Now, when you say it's only light karma, what do they mean by that? What they mean is when a perfect living master initiates, gives naam to a disciple, he at that very time destroys all the reserve karma held in a cloud, which is being picked up again and again to make our destiny for different lives. Therefore, the only karma left after initiation is the pralabdha, the destiny of this karma, of this life. And the only karma after that is what we create in this life. So it's a very light burden. The heavy burden was the sinchit karma, the reserve karma, sitting up in the cloud, from where the time machine was pulling out karma and putting us into reincarnation again and again. That's not there anymore. Therefore, the karma becomes light. It's only the pralabdha. It's only the destiny for this one life that you are going through. And you do create more karma during this one life. And that, if you have to come another life, if a second life after initiation is indicated, or you have to come, it's only based on the karma of the present life and not any past lives. So that's a very big advantage, and you get lighter. Every time you have to come again after initiation, if you have to, it's always better, more conducive to meditation, more conducive to go on the spiritual path than before. So these are advantages. But when masters handle this problem of our karma, they make us go through it, but they do it in a certain way, because they have a deal with the negative power that runs these three universes. Kal, the time frame, the time machine that's running these three universes, there's a deal, because they are upsetting the time machine and pulling out souls from here. And therefore, they have said that we will not disturb the time machine. We won't disturb this universe of the three worlds. And therefore, they pull out. They say they pull out so smoothly, the souls. The example given is like pulling out a hair from butter. You know, if there's a hair stuck in a butter, you pull it so smooth you don't even know you pulled it out. The soul is pulled out from this three-world pattern of the mind and Kal and time, like that smoothly. And for that, they do these wonderful things. They block anything that makes you feel, let me postpone this karma here and go away. Another thing they do, which many people don't like, is when there's a little heavy karma to go through, they disappear. Not a good sign. You say, this is the time when I needed you, and you can't find. As soon as that hump is over, they reappear. They say, Master, what happened? Oh, really? You had to go through that? Oh, don't worry, now it's over. Because they feel that if they intervened, you would not like to go through that karma and just postpone it. This karma is a strange thing. Karma consists of some strange elements which we don't realize. Karma is not a simple thing. Karma is not events. Karma can be emotional events, can be mental events, can be physical events. The pralabdha we come with, the destiny we come with, consists of events like birth and death. birth at a certain place, a fixed place over which we have no control. The previous karma is deciding where we are born, who will be our parents. And the whole thing sets off from there, because we could be born in two different places and have entirely different kind of life. So that's a very major event, that where we are born with our past karma. Then we have accidents, we have coincidences, accidental meetings, we have marriage, children, we have parents who are already there, we have relatives, we have friends, we have occupations, jobs. Everything is laid out by the pralabdha karma, by our destiny for which we come, right up to our death. And death is also determined the same way. This pattern of a lifetime has all these events already fixed into it. But in between these events, there are gaps left of a different kind of karma, which is not pralabdha, which is not destiny. We call them kareman karma. Kareman means it's a new opportunity for us to act. Those new opportunities that come again and again in our lifetime are the ones where we have choices, where we use free will, where we say, should I do this or not do this? Those gaps we fill up with our choice making. When we make a choice, that's the establishment of a new karma, which we have to pay off later on. Therefore, if you look at life, you will find that the gaps which we fill up are not so many as we think. Most of the events are prefixed, are already there. And within them, we are operating to use our free will, our choice, to fill up those gaps. When we fill up those gaps, depending upon how we make a decision, and when we make a decision, what moral value we give to that decision determines the nature of that karma. Supposing, in making a decision, our conscience says, this is not good, you are doing something wrong. Nobody else is telling us, our own conscience is telling us from inside, this is wrong. We say, no, but it's good, I like it. I'm a bad person anyway. At least it's pleasurable. At least I get some fun out of it. Or whatever reason, and we take that decision, is considered to be a karma deserving a punishment. We made it up. We decided to punish ourselves by doing that. Knowing it's going to be like this, we do it, we punish ourselves. Now that's standing as a punishment in the future. The punishment can come within the same lifetime or can come in the next lifetime, but it's held up there. If we say, this was a time for me to help somebody, and that's a good deed I am doing, and you are establishing that moral value that I am really doing a good deed for somebody, or I am helping somebody, it's a good thing I am doing, you have established a karma which will give you a reward. And will give a reward in the same life or in the next life or later on. It was held up as a good karma. It is these moments when we deliberate and see clear choices and say, I can do this or that, and then take a decision that new karma is created, not otherwise. What you do automatically, instinctively, is not new karma. That's payoff of the old karma. Therefore, the new karma is confined to where free will has had to be used, where you had to make a distinction between one choice and another and pick up one choice. And therefore, these two combinations of the pralabdha and kareman, this combination of the destiny and new actions, works to create our future lives. But then, it's not the actual act that creates the karma, because karma is neither held on the body nor on the sense perceptions, but on the mind. Karma is a mental activity. The mind creates karma and not the body. If the mind does not know and the body hits somebody, there is no karma, it's a payoff of the old one. If the mind knows, I am going to hit, it's a new karma. And if you say, I want to hit that person and don't hit, even then it's a karma. So the karma is a mental activity. It's not a physical activity. And we make that mistake sometimes thinking, oh, it's only in my mind. But even if you are in the mind, it's still a karma. So that way, By our mental activity and making decisions in our mind, we create a lot of karma. Karma can be paid off, of course, also mentally. Mental illness, mental deficiencies, they come up to pay off old karma. Emotionally, we can pay off karma. We get emotionally wrecked by disappointments. We get wrecked by things not happening according to the way we want. Those are also karma. Most of them, emotional karma, is from the past. But the mental karma, where we decide what to do, is for the future. Now the difficulty is that if you have a set of bad karma requiring punishment and a set of good karma requiring rewards, they don't cancel each other. That is the biggest snag in this whole system, that you can't cancel. You can't say, oh, I did something bad, now let me atone for it and do good things. You're punished for the bad, you're rewarded for the good. Therefore, otherwise you could wipe out your karma. And because they both are independent, you can't do it. The story is told of Krishna, who was an enlightened avatar, an incarnation of Vishnu, the god of sustenance of this world. And he, even from childhood, could speak up some great truths. And he was a cowherd. He used to take care of cows in the pastures. And he had his very young student, not a student but a classmate, who used to go to village school. His name was Udo. And Udo and Krishna used to go together to look after the cows. One day, Krishna tells Udo, we cannot understand the nature of karma. He's telling as a child, Udo, we cannot understand the nature of the karma. It is so strong, holding us back. Look at this ant crawling, and he points to an ant that's crawling there. Look at this ant crawling. Looks like a little insect, a little ant crawling. Twice it has been Brahma, the creator of this universe. And once it has been Indra, the lord of a heaven existing. And now it's an ant because of karma. He got so much reward for the good things they did and became the creator of the three worlds. And he did so much evil that he had to come back again as an insect. He says, karma is too strange. The words he used, which are now recorded, are karman ki gat nyari se. That's how they say in eastern UP, Uttar Pradesh. And when I went to visit the land where Krishna worked and was born in that area in Uttar Pradesh, I saw poor people, the gardeners and others working there, singing in the evening. And this was the song they always sang. And this was the refrain of their songs. Are Udo karman ki gat nyari se. Udo, you can't understand the nature of karma. It's not so easy as we think it is. And this was the whole thing. The complicated system of karma requires that we have to be here for good or bad. Yet masters have come here from time to time and have given us another way, a different way to overcome this problem. They said, if you want really, you can lead a karma-free life. How can you lead a karma-free life if you have to make decisions all the time? They say, well, leave the decision to the master. Live in God's will. Live in master's will. If you're living in God's will or master's will, you don't make a decision. Somebody else makes a decision. If you have an enlightened good friend and he can decide things for you, don't jump in and say, I want to decide. Say, George knows best, he can decide. Your friend can know better. You're not getting any decision making. This is a very important part, that if you live in God's will, in the master's will, you don't create karma because you're not making a decision. You're living by his decision. But how do we do that? How do we know what is God's will and what is our mind's will? The truth is that there is a category of living. You can live like one with mind's will and one with God's will, or with the Guru's will. And the two categories of people are called manmukhs and gurmukhs. Manmukh is a follower of the mind and follows how the mind decides between choices and creates karma. The gurmukh lives on the will of the guru and follows that and does not create karma. How do we know if a particular action we take, if a guru is not there, God can't be seen, we can't ask him, is this your will or no? And we have to take a decision. How do we know which is God's will and which is our mind's will? There, of course, Maulana Rum, he gives an answer. He says, why do people ask me what is God's will? It's so simple. If he has placed a spade in your hand, he has expressed his will, dig. If he has given a pen in your hand, he has expressed his will, write. He has placed circumstances indicating what to do it, that's his will. He simplifies it. That if you live by following the circumstances and coincidences around you, coincidences themselves are an expression of God's will, if you follow them. And then, of course, more recently, the masters have further explained that there are two functions in our mind. One is the mental decision-making, and the other is the intuitive decision-making. There's a difference between the two. In the mental decision-making, we always take time to decide, because the mind has to reason what is better or worse, and then take a decision. If the mind makes a decision, it's karma. Intuition does not have any time, it's a gut feeling that comes. When you follow that, no time has been taken. You have not taken a decision except the gut feeling that came and has no karma. People who live intuitively do not create karma. People who live mentally create more karma. There's another angle to it. How do we know it's true intuition or not? Some people mistake a quick mental judgment to be intuition. One man told me, a friend of mine, I am developing my intuition. I said, I don't know how to develop. I'm very glad. You tell me, how do you develop intuition? Give me an example. He said, I'm going to give you an example. I want to decide whether I want to go to that city tomorrow or not. Now I ask my intuition to give an answer. We'll go. I said, what was that? There was time. That was exactly the time that mind takes to make a decision. This was a mental decision, not intuitive. When the intuitive hunch comes to us, there is no time. It's just sudden, completely sudden. It's the sudden hunch that comes. Is there any way to verify if we get these intuitive hunches and we get this gut feeling? Is there another way to verify whether really it was intuitive? Yes. The circumstantial evidence of coincidences outside corroborates whether the intuition was right or not. And you will find this remarkable thing. When you have a hunch, a gut feeling, then you go out and drive and see the same thing written on the billboard. It's a confirmation of your intuitive hunch. The more intuitive you become, the more coincidences of that kind happen. You can check them out in your life. So therefore, God speaks to us, Guru speaks to us, Master speaks to us in all these languages. And if we follow those, we are living in the Lord's will and don't create karma. So we can make, to quite a large extent, a life with much less karma than we have. So there are some guidelines how to handle karma for a seeker, for a disciple of a perfect living master. So I'm giving you these little hints because they work. You can test them out, they actually work. So the fact that karma works in a certain pattern and goes on till we die leads us to the question, how is the next life created then? What part of the karma of one life is used to create the next life? Is it just all of it going in reflection into the next life? Not at all. Only some pieces are picked up from here and there. And from the reserve. Pieces are picked up from the reserve, pieces picked up from here, pieces picked up from the 10th earlier lifetime, 100th earlier lifetime, 50th earlier lifetime. It can be picked up from anywhere to make a new lifetime. There was a blind king in Mahabharata, Indian epic story, and he was blind in the time of Krishna. And he told Krishna, with your help, I have been able to look back into 100 of my past lives. And I don't remember anything I did to be blind in this life. How come I'm blind? And Krishna says, no, you have to go further back. 104th life, earlier 4th life, 104th life, you, as a king, took out the eyes of a man, and that's why you're blind. He says, after 104 lives, he says, there's no limit. Karma can be created from any of the past lives and brought in to make a new life. This arrangement is such that since we have had so many past lives, that we can continuously have lives even if we try to live karma-free. The only way the karma-free life can really help us is if we are initiated by a perfect living master. And it destroys the cloud of all previous lives, karma. And the only thing left is the prarabdha, the destiny made for this life. And we pay off that in this life. And whatever we create then we can control. If we know this is the only life that can be used to make it the next life, we have a karma-free life, live in the will of the master, you don't have a next life. What happens when you die? Most people can't tell us. Some people have near-death experiences and they tell us they saw white light, they saw tunnels and so on. The doctors and psychologists say, no, that's only a remembrance of their birth canal and they came out and saw the light, so they see the light when they die. It's the memory going backwards. They give different explanations. What is the answer which mystics and the masters give us? They say, when you die, you suddenly find the world retracting from you, that you're being pulled away. And the whole of this life, the pictures of this life, runs like a movie in front of you. And you see all the events suddenly running in front of you. You see, oh, I did this, I did this, I did this. Very rapidly, the whole life is replayed, as it were, in front of you. And at that time, in the last few moments of your death, when this is happening, whatever your wishes at that time are, whatever you think of at that time, is the fundamental basis of the next life. Then other things are added on to it. They say the last moments, wishes and desires are very important in establishing what your immediate next life will be like. But immediately after death, when you're pulled out and you're disembodied, if you are not an initiate, you are brought before somebody, some character who has been assigned this role because of his good karma or bad karma, who sits as the Lord of judgment on you. And he says, you saw the picture, and now I'm going to tell you what is entailed for the next life. And he spells out. And he spells out that from the karma that you created, he tells us that it entails that you have done so much to go to hell. 3 days in hell, or 10 days. You have done so much, you're entitled to heaven for a month. You've done so much to have these events in your life. But before we go into other forms of life that you can go into, including life forms other than human, you could go into a whole sequence of life forms starting from plant life all the way to insects, birds, mammals, and human again. By your karma, you have created the cycle of rebirth in different life forms. But before any of that starts, it will always go in the same order. By the way, that order happened to be Darwinian order also. I was seeing the sudden coincidence. Before we start the Darwinian order of, you don't have to go through all life forms, only some of the selected ones, but the order is always in the same. Before you go into that order, you decide you want to go to hell or heaven first. Last choice you are going to make with your free will. After that, till you become human, you will have no free will. But this is the last opportunity to exercise free will. Some people like to go to hell first, get it out of the way. And some want to go to heaven. Maybe in heaven we may pray and avoid the hell. All kinds of thoughts come. I have sometimes in these meetings taken a poll. How many people, if they got a chance that they had to go 1 month to heaven, 1 month to hell, where would they like to go first? I'm going to check what is your opinion. If you all had a choice and you have to spend 1 month in heaven and 1 month in hell, how many of you would like to go to hell first? Okay, how many of you would like to go to heaven first? Pretty well divided. Thank you. That's always been my experience. It's pretty much divided. And there must be some good reasons why we have such a 50-50 poll on this issue. But that is the last choice we get on the law of karma. After that, the different life forms we have, they have a very strange effect again on karma, because every life form you go through leaves its imprint before you move to the next. For example, if you have a karma where you have to be a tree, you have to be a wooden tree for 100 years. You stand in the garden as a wooden tree with a subdued consciousness of a tree. You can't do anything, but you're conscious that you are a tree. You're conscious there are other trees around, people are there. You're conscious of that. You can't speak, you can't communicate, you can't move. You're stuck till you die. As a tree, for that long period, you carry that wooden tree experience to the next life. Supposing you have only 2 lives, tree and human, and nothing in between. That was all your karma. You will find yourself wooden and tree-like even when you're human. This carries on. It's amazing, every experience. Supposing you had the experience of being a dog before you became human. The dog's attributes come up as a human being, you'll have a tendency for that. So it's not merely that they stand alone by themselves. Every form of life in which we appear carries its imprint into the next one. And ultimately, when we become human, we are carrying the imprints of a lot of life forms. And that's why we behave in all those forms. It's a very complex sanskar. Sanskar means the establishment of attitudes based upon all previous lifetimes. Sanskar is different from karma, because sanskar, that is the sanskars. Sanskar means the accumulated effect of all the previous karma. It's not one. Events that come are one life. This event happened there, this is happening now. But sanskar is cumulative. And sanskar develop our attitude. And our attitude is very uniform. It hardly changes. I have seen that the attitude of people does not change, but with a perfect living master's initiation, it does change. I've seen that. So it's a cumulative thing. How does it change with a perfect living master's initiation? Because the very cloud carrying all the previous sinchit karma is destroyed and immediately leads to change of attitude, because that's no longer affecting your attitude. If you watch people closely, if you watch initiates closely, and I watched initiates all my life, and I watched closely how they react when they come and get initiation, how they are before, how they are after, how it happens as they progress, that the distinct change of attitude comes after initiation. And the attitude towards people, attitude towards things begins to change. So that's because of the law of karma. It's all built into this particular law. So karma is not that simple, like it's just action, reaction. It has all these strange features in it. If you are initiated by a perfect living master, you do not go to any other life form except a human life form if you have to. Do you have to go to another life form? Not necessarily. One day, great master gave a discourse, and he said, if you are initiated by a perfect living master, you will not have to go through more than 4 better and better human lives. My dad was not there on that satsang, on that discourse. He heard it from somebody else. And he ran to the great master. And he said, Master, I understand that you said today a person initiated by a perfect living master cannot have more than 4 lives. Is it true? And master says, Lake Raj, why are you worried? This is your last life. Why are you worried about 4 lives? He says, no, I am worried that if I want a 5th one, I won't get it. He said, why would you think of a 5th one? He said, because who knows, you may come again and again. Some people say, masters come again and again. You decide to come 5th one, will you leave me behind? Great master then explained. He said, 4 lives is mentioned as a limit. It's not necessary for everybody to have 4 lives. Indeed, if a person after initiation by a perfect living master follows the instructions of the master, just follows the instructions of the master, this is his last life. He is not reborn again. If a person after initiation cannot follow fully, tries but misses, fails, tries, misses, he may come for 1 more lifetime, which will be better lifetime where he can follow the instructions. Only where a person gives up the path and does not want to follow at all, he comes for another 3rd life. Only a person who goes against the path, against the master, works against the master, comes for the 4th life. It's not that everybody is coming for the 4th life. Most people who are following the instructions of a master, this is their last life. And therefore it's not, this story went around that we have to have come 4 lives. That's not true. That's not according to the power of the initiation of a perfect living master, which takes care of you. He can also intervene in this karma. A divine intervention is possible to lighten even the existing prarabdha karma. But what happens? Because of the deal that masters themselves have made with the Lord of these regions, the time frame, the time machine that is running these regions, because of that deal, they say, okay, if you want your pound of flesh, we'll give the pound of flesh before we go. If they help a person, very often they take the karma upon themselves. If they find that the disciple is really in pain and agony, and as human beings, they have utmost compassion. They are very compassionate human beings. And with that compassion, they don't want the person to suffer or not suffer so much. They can take on, but then they pay the price. But the price they pay is much less, because the negative power itself is not wanting them to suffer. So when they take a little suffering on behalf of their disciples, the negative power itself is anxious they should not suffer. So they can take a little bit and it solves a large amount of karma. It takes away the large amount of karma of that disciple. People have to go through some very tough karma, and masters, they can get injured on their hands, they can get injuries on their body, they can fall sick. There was a case where a man had a very heavy karma. We all have very different loads of karma, but one was a very heavy load of karma and could not have been ready for initiation in this life, could have been ready next life with the grace of a master whose darshan he had had. But his friend, who was a disciple of great master, was very keen to give him the initiation. He kept on pleading to the master, Master, he is my friend. I love my friend. Forget all his weaknesses. You don't judge people. So just initiate him. And the great master said, for your sake, I will initiate your friend. But then I'll go back straight home. I'll cut my tour short. And he initiated that person, went back and had a high fever for himself, which he predicted in advance. So masters can take on their bodies, on visible karma, which we can see for the sake of the disciples. Some disciples say it's very unfair to load a master with our karma. What kind of Sikhs are we? What kind of disciples are we, that instead of helping the master do his work, we are putting our karma on the master. That's not fair. The question is, the answer master gives is, look, I'm helping you with this much load of karma. I'll be able to do it with this little. Therefore, it's a good deal, don't worry about it. But still, people, loving disciples, they don't want even to give that much of karma to the master. Eventually, it is all left to the discretion of the master. And when we live in the will of the Lord, he determines how much we can take, how much he needs to help us, and we go through karma. I have told you all these things about the law of karma, because very often we don't hear these details, and we think karma is a very simple process, do good and you are rewarded, do bad and you are punished. It's much more complicated and has a cycle of events that goes with it. So far as we are concerned, the best is to create as little karma as we can in this lifetime. And that is by living in the Lord's will. Which means we look up and see what the coincidences are telling us, what our hunch is telling us, what Master's talk is telling us, what specific instructions he has given us are telling us. Follow them. If you follow all these things, you'll be on the right track. If sometimes you get confused that we have these two options, we can go this way or this way, and Master is not here. We can't contact him, we can't telephone him, we can't speak to him. How do we know which way to go? Is there a rule of thumb that we can apply to what we should do? The rule of thumb is, look at the two options. The one that brings you closer to the Master is to be preferred over that which takes you away from the Master. The one that makes you think more of the Master is to be preferred over that which does not. There's a rule of thumb that you will find, if you apply this rule of thumb in making your daily decisions, you'll be generally quite right. And therefore, you'll make the right choices. Of course, you can also, in meditation, ask the Master and repeat the words of Simran. And very often, either directly in meditation or coincidentally, next day you'll get the answer. So then you don't have a problem because you're living in the will of the Master. And you can create a more or less karma-free life and reduce the burden and follow the instructions of the Master and go back home in this very lifetime. In this age, this is called the Iron Age, the Kali Yuga, the grace and generosity of the Master is flowing more than ever before. I can tell you that. This is the time to keep our cups open, to get filled up. People say, why don't I get enough grace of the Master? Well, grace of the Master is flowing all the time. It flows like rain. When rain falls, the shower is falling, it's like grace. If you have a cup and put it upside down in the rain, it never gets filled up, no matter how much the shower is. But if you turn it around a little bit, a few drops go in. If you turn it straight up, it gets filled up very quickly. What is this cup we are talking of? This cup is the cup of our own attention. If our attention is entirely the world, it's upside down. If our attention is towards the Master, it's upside up. It's up, filling up with grace. Grace is never stopping. It's our cup that we manage, our attention that we manage, which side we put it. If we put it up, it gets filled up. If our attention is on the Master, day and night, walking, talking, thanking him for everything, the cup is up and grace comes and we experience it. And if our attention is worldly, I say, Master, I tried to do this work, you didn't help me. Master, I failed in that job. Master, I couldn't do that. Your attention is all on the worldly things, and all that you want is for worldly activities. Grace is there, cup is empty, because it's not turned in the right direction. So keep the cup of your attention in the direction of the Master, and His grace will fill it up. I'm very happy you paid such attention to what I was saying. And keep it and practice what I have been saying. Keep it as a guideline. This is just guidance. It can only be actually worked out if you meditate, go within, and check it out. Do not believe any word of mine unless you check it out yourself inside. That is the principle on which great masters' teachings work. That you can hear these things, but check them out. All these things that I say, the truth about them is lying inside you. All the questions you have, the answers are lying inside you. If you go within, you'll get the answers to all these things. We'll have a short break for questions. If you have any questions, you can ask them now. Yes. Claudia will help with the microphone. ਸਿੰਚਿਤ ਕਰਮ ਖਤਮ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੈ।
ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਜਨਮ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਕੀ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਨਾਲ ਕਰਮ ਘੱਟ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਜਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਰੀਰ ਦੇ ਦੁੱਖ ਸੁੱਖ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ
ਸਿਮਰਨ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਕਰਮ ਘੱਟ ਜਾਂਦੇ। ਜਿੰਨਾ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰੋ ਉਨੇ ਕਰਮ ਘੱਟ ਜਾਂਦੇ।
ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਰਮਾਨੀ ਮੁਕਾਮ ਤੇ ਸਤਿਗੁਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਦਇਆ ਚਲੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਜਾਂ ਸੰਸਥਾ ਕਮਲ ਚਾਹਨੇ ਮੁਕਾਮ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਚਲੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਸ ਮੁਕਾਮ ਨੂੰ ਤੈਅ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਟਾਈਮ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਜਾਂ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਦੀ ਮਿਹਰ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਅਗਲੇ ਰਮਾਨੀ ਮੰਡਲ ਤੇ ਛੇਤੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ।
ਇਹ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਦੀ ਮੌਜ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਲਗਾਏ। ਸਾਡੇ ਕਰਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਅਨੁਸਾਰ ਟਾਈਮ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ। ਜਿੰਨਾ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਭਗਤੀ ਵਧੇਗੀ ਉਨਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਘੱਟ ਲੱਗਦਾ। ਸਿਰਫ ਇਕੱਲੇ ਸਿਮਰਨ ਨਾਲ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਘੱਟਦਾ। ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰਮ ਕੱਟ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਲੇਕਿਨ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਘਟਾਉਂਦਾ। ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਭਗਤੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਟਾਈਮ ਘਟਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ।
ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਤੋਂ ਨੇ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਦਾ ਸਰੂਪ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਜੀਵ ਆਤਮਾ ਇਹ ਤਿੰਨ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਰਮਾਨੀ ਮੰਡਲ ਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਇੱਕ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਜਾਂ ਤਿੰਨੇ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ
फिर को तीन चीज़ा हाँ जीव आत्मा है एक शब्द धुन है एक गुरु का स्वरूप है। ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਦੇ ਮੰਦਰ 'ਚ ਤਿੰਨੋਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ। ਅੰਦਰ ਦਾ ਮੰਦਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਮੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਤਿੰਨੋਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ। ਜੀਵ ਆਤਮਾ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਹੈ, ਸ਼ਬਦ ਧੁਨ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਹੈ, ਗੁਰੂ ਦਾ ਸਰੂਪ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਤਿੰਨੋਂ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਦੇਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਆਪਣੇ ਮੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ। ਇਹ ਮਸਤਕ ਦੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਤਿੰਨੋਂ ਹੈਗੇ। ਜੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਜਾਓਗੇ, ਮੰਦਰ ਜਾਓਗੇ, ਕਿਤੇ ਜਾਓਗੇ, ਅਸਲੀ ਮੰਦਰ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ। ਨਜ਼ਰ ਸਭ ਕੁਛ ਅੰਦਰ ਹੀ ਆਣਾ ਹੈ। ਚੀਜ਼ ਇੱਕੋ ਹੈ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਦੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸੁਣਾਈ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਸਰੂਪ ਨੂਰੀ ਸਰੂਪ ਦੇਖਣ 'ਚ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇੰਨਾ ਫਰਕ ਹੈ। ਅਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਦੇਖਣੇ ਵੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਸੁਣਨੇ ਵੀ ਹੈ। ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਔਰ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਇੱਕੋ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਫਰਕ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇੱਥੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਫਰਕ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੁਣਨਾ ਹੋਰ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ, ਦੇਖਣਾ ਹੋਰ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ। ਲੇਕਿਨ ਉੱਪਰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਔਰ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਇੱਕੋ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੈ। ਉਸ ਲਈ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸਰੂਪ ਔਰ ਨੂਰੀ ਸਰੂਪ ਇੱਕੋ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੈ। ਇੱਕੋ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ। ਉੱਤੇ ਨਿਰਤ ਸੁਰਤ ਵੀ ਇੱਕੋ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ।
ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਸਿਧਾਂਤ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਸਵਾਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਚਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਮਨ 'ਚ ਘੁੰਮ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਜਨਮ ਦੇ ਕਰਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਜਦੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਬਣੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਇਨਸਾਨ ਦਾ ਜਨਮ ਮਿਲ ਗਿਆ, ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਜੂਨਾਂ 'ਚ ਚਲੇ ਗਏ। ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਇਨਸਾਨ ਬਣ ਗਏ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਚੰਗਾ ਕਰਮ ਕੀਤਾ? ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰ 84 'ਚ ਪੈ ਗਏ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ
This is an important question he has raised in Punjabi, so I'll translate into English for the rest of the people. He was first asking about the life force, the soul, and the Shabad, the sound, and the face of the master we see, the radiant form. Where do they exist? I said all three exist at the same place. Second question was the distinction between the face of the master, the radiant form, and the Shabad Sroop, the sound form. I told him that when we go higher above Brahm, both of them merge and become the same thing. The sound and the face become the same thing, and no distinction is left at that time. But the question is now asking is that what about people coming for the first time? Where did the karma come from? Now that's the question I wanted to share with everybody. That when we had no karma in our true home in Sachkhand. We're coming to this world for the first time, a world created by karma. How did this karma come when we had no karma at all? And what kind of karma was there? Now that is actually when the individuated soul descends below Parbrahm into the world of the three worlds. In the causal stage, Trikuti, the top of the three worlds, at that stage there are what are called, there's an Akash, a sky containing all possible permutation, combination of destinies, karma. They contain the blueprints of every type of life that can be created in any life form. Most particularly, it has a large selection of human life forms that you can take. It shows what your life from the beginning to the end will be, and to have that life, what past lives will exist with this to create that life. It will also show what that life form will create in the future lifetime. So the packages are such, if you want to pick up one lifetime of a human being here, it has to carry with it past lives to create that human life, because no life can be created without past karma. So the package is there. We are karma free. We've come here and get a choice. You can pick up any one of these combinations that you like. The time machine offers us this option. Go look around this library of videos and DVDs sitting there, pick up which one and you play it out. That will be your life. We go and pick up our tape, pick up our DVD and say, this one looks good, reasonable. And that looks pretty good. We don't go too far to see how long we'll be there because of that. It looks like a good life now. So we pick up that and come and get trapped here. And all the other lifetimes that are part of that package comes into play. Or we can be one of the marked souls and say, I can pick up an experience through the DVD, but I want to make sure that I escape. So I look into this life and this, and I want to find a life where I find a perfect living master and go back. Doesn't matter if it has some ups and downs, but I like to make sure of that. We pick that package. We come at the right time, the master appears, and we go back home. That's a great choice. Perhaps the only choice that a soul, individuated consciousness, makes when descending into these three worlds. So therefore, when you pick up that, you play it. The play is called life. We are all playing that DVD, and it looks like real life. Because while playing it in the DVD, we have not only placed ourselves as an audience of the DVD, we have placed ourselves as a character, also acting in the DVD. So we are acting in that, we have a role in that, and we become a witness to the play as well as an actor at the same time, which is exactly what we are doing now. We are looking at the play around us, and we are also acting in this play. And we do not realize that the entire play is pre-recorded. We do not realize all the free will choices we will make are pre-recorded. We do not realize that the whole law of karma that will operate is pre-recorded. That when it says, you will choose this and have this, we chose it at that time. We made a choice of all choices at one go when we got in here. So the karma that we get here is picked up from a predetermined package of karma. We didn't have any karma. Now, second point, which is more important, we never have karma even when we are here. The karma is held by another part of an equipment called the mind. The mind plays that karma, and we are powering the mind to become alive, because we are consciousness. Without consciousness, the mind cannot function. Body cannot function. Senses cannot function. We provide the power to work that. We are the powerhouse for playing the DVD. So when the DVD plays, we are providing the power, and we go through the whole experience as if it is happening to us. When we go back, we find the truth of all this, that this is what we chose. We wanted to have an adventure. We picked up our own life frames, past, present, and future. Now the beauty is, when you pick up one lifetime, you pick up infinite past lifetimes, not 5 or 6, because you require infinite. Every lifetime requires a previous lifetime. So the time, the nature of time that is available for this play is such, it will always be infinite past and infinite future. And these things can go on forever till we step out. When we step out, it ends. It is just like a dream. When we go into a dream, it looks like the things we are seeing have been there forever. We see old buildings in a dream which don't even exist outside, and we say, how old are they? 1,000 years old. This is 4,000 years old. And wake up and see there was no building 7 minutes ago, and now it's a 4,000-year-old building has come into being. So time and past, present are created like that. And that is the method by which we get. But then don't forget that karma is not real. Soul never has karma. Soul is just experiencing karma. It's experiencing in the company of the mind and in the company of sense perceptions, which is the next level, company of this physical body, which is next level to that, and in the dream state, which is still next level. So these are different levels of experiences in which we have this karmic experiences. When we go back, nothing was ever experienced. Might add, for those who are very interested in knowing the truth, the absolute truth is that this whole show of picking up DVDs, coming into this world, is all taking place in our true home, Sachkhand. We never left it. We just picked up these experiences and caused a descent of experience to take place. And when we go back, we find we are back home. We never left. It was a very bad dream we had, or a good dream we had. That's the real truth. So it's not a journey, as we call it. We call it a spiritual journey because having lived in time and space, to go anywhere, we think it has to be a journey. So we call the spiritual journey to our own self as a journey. When we wake up, we find it was not a journey. It was a successive awakening, that we awaken ourselves again and again to our own true reality. Okay? Oh yes, the perfect living masters who come here are commissioned to do that job. That's their role. Their role is to bring marked souls back home. They are human beings commissioned to do that. And therefore, they don't do anything outside the will of God. Yes.
I just had a question about when the soul incarnates through so many lifetimes, and you see all these individuations of self, these very unique forms. After we leave this world and we're on our journey, what happens to those different parts of ourselves, or any self, or the self that was here? Does it persist? Is it a part of the graders? How does that interface?
The different parts of ourself are not really part of the self. They are covers upon the self. For example, this body of ours is a coverlet left behind. When we move to the next step, the sense perceptions we have is another cover. When we go higher, that's left behind. It's discarded. It disappears. When we go to the mind and go above it, the mind disappears. We all put on these costumes. These are costumes we wear to have these experiences, and once we go above, these all disappear. The self does not leave any part of it anywhere. The self remains intact, integrated, and it remains the same. So the self does not break into any parts. The self experiences parts. For example, the self experiences that there are so many people here. It goes up there and finds all those people were a creation of a single self. Just like you go to have a dream, in the dream you see 1,000 people. When you wake up, the 1,000 people disappear because they were only created for the dream. In the same way, all things other than the self have been created only for the experience of the self. Self remains one all the time, right up to the top. Yes.
You say that karma, in fact, is not real in the heart of God. You realize that it was just part of the state. So if it's not real, then why can't we just say, realize that it's not real, not have to live? Is there, the perfect master comes to give us a more direct shortcut by eliminating the big cloud that we can't seem to handle. But if the reality is that it really isn't real, is there some things we're not supposed to know while we're here?
When we go to see a movie, the movie is not real. They're not real people. Do we leave the hall because it is unreal? We stay for the movie. We don't leave it. It's the same thing. We don't look a shortcut because it is not real. The thing is that when we look at a show, Aristotle was a Greek philosopher. He said, why do we go to see a play? We don't go to see a play because it's unreal. We want to go and see a play because we make it real. We make it so real that we cry and laugh at the play. They are all actors, and we take them as real. He says, what he calls a willing suspension of disbelief, that we willingly suspend our disbelief in order to enjoy the show. If we did not suppress our disbelief, we would never enjoy the show. So when we come here, we make it a reality. We want it to be real. Even though it's not real, we want to make it real. So to make it real, like we make a movie real, we have made this life so real. We take no chances that we should think it is not real. So we have defined our reality as that which we can check with perceptions right here. So we check, oh, this is solid, this is real, this is happening like this, because there is nothing else we can compare with to say it is not real. So whether it's real or not, we can only find out if we find something other that is real. Since we don't know anything else that is real, we are blocked from that. This becomes real. So we have used the power of illusion in such a great way to not create another illusion, but to create reality. Now, if you want to know what is really real, supposing you want to know, is there something really real? Shall I give you an honest answer? Nothing is really real. Everything is created here and there. The only reality is the power of consciousness to create realities. And that is with reality, even such has been created by the power of consciousness, which is permanent. Not real in the really real sense, because it's the function of consciousness that creates all experiences at all levels. Therefore, it's a comparative reality, relative reality. When you wake up from a dream, this is more real than the dream, so we take it as real. When you go to the next stage, that's more real than this. And this becomes unreal, that becomes real. You move higher, that becomes real, the lower one becomes unreal. At one time, we are experiencing one level of consciousness which we consider real. That's our definition of reality. That's how we are experiencing reality. So, no shortcuts. If we wanted shortcuts, we wouldn't make it in the first place. If we didn't want to have this experience, why would he come down anyway? So we set it up ourselves for adventure. The only thing is, enjoy the adventure. Don't get messed up with it. Don't get tied up here. Don't say, I'm going to be here forever. Say, I'm ready. After the adventure is over, go back home.
Just one more quick thing.
Yes.
This thing, the one thing that might be real that I hear over and over is unconditional love. Is that what's real? The unconditional love?
Yes. That again is a comparison. Unconditional love is real. I'll tell you why. Because unconditional love is the nature of consciousness. Like the other nature of consciousness, the original consciousness, from which everything became conscious. Love is part of that. Therefore, love continues to be real at every level, right up to here. But what we call attachments, and that becomes unreal, true love remains real even here. So there's some reality coming right down. What is the reality which we know is real out here? The real thing right here is that there is someone watching the unreality. That's real. The witness to all this show is real. Consciousness is real. All else is made up. Love is real. All else is made up.
Masuji, I have two questions. The first one is about creating karma without thought process. We are aware that sometimes we think about, we have so many negative thoughts, negative or positive, doesn't matter, that we don't agree that we know that it's not our thoughts. So, is the negative power something to do with that? With some thoughts that we don't agree, like we are even afraid that we thought those thoughts, or is just our karma process? How is that related?
The thoughts come from the mind. The mind is a thinking machine. The mind thinks all the time. The mind thinks when we are sleeping. The mind thinks when we are awake. The mind thinks all the time. If the mind stops thinking, we will die. Therefore, the mind, thinking for the mind is like the heartbeat for the body. The heart beats, we are alive. The heart stops, we go. So similarly, the mind's heartbeat is the thinking. It has to keep on thinking. It thinks randomly. It thinks on all the stored information we have. It thinks on all the memories of several lifetimes we have. Picking up all the elements from those, it keeps on thinking all the time. Therefore, strange thoughts come to us, which we don't know where they're coming from. They're coming from an area which we've forgotten. They're just being picked up randomly by the mind, and those thoughts are coming. If we keep on listening to those thoughts and are concerned with those thoughts, we get into trouble. Because those negative thoughts then affect our actions, they affect our behavior, they affect our feelings, they affect our suffering and pleasure. These negative thoughts affect us to that extent. Therefore, what is the answer to that problem? The answer is, don't let the mind think randomly. You direct it what to think. Mind is a machine in your hands. You as the soul are the owner of this machine. You can direct the mind. When we do meditation, we do Simran. What are we doing? We are directing the mind, repeat these words. Like that, we can direct the mind to think on any line we like. We can direct the mind to think of any subject we like. We can direct the mind to think of master. We can direct the mind, now think of this thing, what we're planning for the master. You can direct the mind and make it occupied with your direction. You will find the mind is a beautiful servant also. It works so well for you. But when we let the mind go randomly thinking, then those negative thoughts come into the mind from the past and affect us. So the answer is control your mind by directing it what to do. It's our slave. Remember, the mind is supposed to be a slave. Somehow we made some mistake somewhere and we have become slaves of the master, of the mind. Now we have to make the mind back our slave by giving it directions what to do. Okay?
And I have one more and last question.
Yes.
I have seen patients, you talked about emotional karma. So I have seen patients that were very depressed clinically. They did psychotherapy for months, and they started on antidepressants, and then emotionally they got positive. How this is related to karma? Was that pre-recorded to the process that they would go after with psychotherapy, and by changing this thought process, then their emotions also got positive from negative emotions that they had before?
Emotional karma comes from the emotional acts that we had in the past. When emotions come, we take decisions based on those emotions. You are emotionally inclined to do something and you say, I should do this because your emotions are guiding you. When you do that, that creates an emotional karma, and that's paid off in an emotional way, and you have a suffering. Emotion can be good and bad. You can have a bad emotional reaction to that, or you can have a very good emotion. When people feel loved and they feel they're loving somebody, tears come into their eyes. They're full of emotion. It comes from their heart center. It's also a good karma. So emotion karma, or like all other karmas, can be good or bad. But the emotional karma is created by an emotional decision we took earlier. Okay? Yes.
what I really do enjoy is the idea of circumstance creates invitation, and the signs around us confirm it. So, like you were saying, to follow the will of the Master will help you to create, or not to create, but to decide which path to take. And ever since I was even a little kid, I would always, I like to play a game with myself when I was a little kid, and that was, this went that way, so I guess I'm going to have pasta tonight, or I'll eat this or do that. And it was a game when I was a kid. But today, as an adult, I begin to wonder, am I overthinking sometimes now? You know, I still like to think of it as a game because it's inviting, it's fun, it's like a form of gambling, it's safe because I keep my money. But what I'd like to know is there an opportunity to perhaps consider training wheels on this, a way to offer an opportunity to see signs in a designated spot so that I can become accustomed to noticing those signs as I grow, and wondering, can there be an allowance made to seeing these signs so that I can learn more? Or is there another tool or suggestion you have that allows me to be more focused on, that's a sign there, that's something I should listen to?
Very good. When you say overthinking, am I overthinking? What does overthinking means? You always think. So we don't overthink or underthink. Thinking is a very steady thing that happens in the mind. What we really mean when we say overthink is paying too much attention to what we are thinking. That looks like overthinking. Thoughts come in our head all the time. How much attention we pay to the thoughts is what creates the feeling of we are thinking too much or thinking too little. Thoughts are all the time there. Actually, when you are meditating and you are repeating words, thoughts are still going on. What happens is we don't stop the thoughts. We don't stop thinking. We only ignore the thoughts. We don't pay attention to them. And therefore we think, now we are away from thoughts. Actually, thinking takes place all the time. If we don't pay attention to it, it looks like we are not thinking that much. There was a student in Harvard University when I was studying there, and he one day found out that he had learned the art of stopping thinking, how to stop thinking. So he called me, he says, I have found a new kind of a yogic position in which when I sit and concentrate, I stop my thinking. I said, do you still remain alive? He said, yes, that's why I'm talking to you. I said, can you come to my house and demonstrate it? I used to call some of these people who made these claims to demonstrate in front of me how to stop thinking. I'd also like to learn, because I've never been able to stop thinking. I don't know anybody who ever stopped thinking. So I called him and I said, let us see, what is your procedure, how to stop thinking? He said, I take a certain asana and put my hands on my head like this, and then I hold it there, and I direct my mind, stop, and stop thinking. I said, let's experiment now. How long can you stop thinking? He said, maybe for about half an hour I can do easily. I said, how about a 60-second experiment? If you can stop for 60 seconds, I'll believe you can stop for half an hour. Let's try 60 seconds. I have my watch with me. Let's start like this. You take on your position, asana, and I will give a clap like this. This means there's a time to stop thinking. I'll watch. 60 seconds later, I'll give you a second clap. You can start thinking again. And then we will sit and examine what happens to human consciousness, what happens to awareness when a person is not thinking. It will be great research, and it will be totally new knowledge for me. So let's try it. So he got into his asana, And he put his hand in the right position to control his brain and to control his thinking. And then when I saw he was ready, and my second hand had come to the top, I gave a clap. And I ignored him because I was looking at the watch to make sure I gave him a second signal after 60 seconds. After 60 seconds, I gave him another clap. And he opened his eyes. He's back with us again. I said, now, did you stop thinking for 60 seconds? He said, yes. I have a few questions to ask you now. When I gave the first clap, how did you know that this is the time to stop thinking? I said, don't make up an answer. Remember what happened. We are checking out what actually happens to consciousness, to awareness, when you stop thinking. So he said, I remember. When you gave the clap, I said to myself, this is the time to stop thinking. I said, that's a thought. It intruded into those 60 seconds. Oh, yes, but that was only a few seconds. I only took 2-3 seconds to think like that. Cut that out. I said, okay, now the experiment is only for 57 seconds. Now tell me, how did you know after that when I give the second clap, you will start thinking? Don't make it up. Think, remember. It's a memory. It just happened. He thought deeply. Oh, yes, I remember. After I said, now is the time to stop thinking, I also said that when he gives me the second clap, I can think again. So that's another thought. I said, after that, how are you sure I will give the second clap? While you were waiting for the second clap. Oh, I remember. I did think that second clap will come, I can restart thinking. In about 5 minutes of discussion, he said, oh my God, I was thinking more in these 60 seconds than ever before. And yet he thought he had stopped thinking. How could that happen? How could a person feel that he is not thinking when he's thinking all these things? He had no answer. I had the answer for him. I said the mind does not function in one channel. The mind functions in multiple channels. You can stop one channel, the mind can go into the next channel, keep on thinking in another voice, another subtle voice, and you think you have stopped thinking. That's what happens when we do meditation. We do Simran, we repeat the words, and we think we are repeating the words, and if you are careful, you can see the mind commenting upon those words right there. It's also thinking. And if you make the second one also level, repeat words, a third level opens up. A fourth level opens up. Carefully examine what happens in the head when you're meditating. You will see the mind never stops thinking. His Holiness Dalai Lama came to India, and he was a great meditator. He was a young man. I received him in India. That was part of my government duty, to receive him, house him, and became friends. I had a Land Rover given to me by the government for my job. It's normally a chauffeur drove, but when I had the Dalai Lama with me, I drove it because we both went out. He was learning English very quickly, so we were able to communicate. We discussed meditation. We discussed the concentration of attention. We discussed thinking. He recognized that the mind can keep on thinking at different levels. He's the only person who has ever told me he could actually identify 8 levels of thinking in his head at the same time going on. Mind is not that simple. It doesn't think in one channel. Therefore, this guy who thought he stopped thinking had stopped thinking in one level. The other one was keeping on telling him when he can start thinking, all the time. And he realized it when I brought him back to recall. When I told him to recall, he was able to recall it. If the mind thinks all the time, and we say, still your mind, we say, stop thinking and do your meditation, do your repetition. First of all, repetition is, of course, done by the mind. If it is done with the tongue, it has no value. It has to be done with the mind. It doesn't work otherwise. It starts with the tongue. Your tongue is repeating words, but the mind picks up. Gradually, the tongue doesn't have to work at all, and the mind picks up. It's another practice. It doesn't happen automatically, you have to practice it. But once you practice, the mind keeps on thinking of other things. You do not stop the mind from thinking. You ignore the mind. You ignore the other thoughts and concentrate on one thought. And that is where the power of listening comes in. The power of listening can divert the attention to what you're listening and ignore what you're not listening. And that is why when we say listening is the real secret, not the speaking, not the Simran, but the listening to the Simran is the secret. The reason is that when you listen attentively to the Simran, you do not listen to the rest of the jabbering of the mind. That's still going on. So therefore, that's a very subtle point, that the mind does not think in one channel. And therefore, when you feel that the mind has stopped thinking or is doing something else, it's just moved to another channel. In meditation, keep in mind, you cannot stop the mind from thinking. If you stop, you'll die. If the mind stops thinking, mind will die, astral body will die, physical body will die, disappear at once. It can't stop thinking. It will think, but you can ignore the thinking. That's the meditational process. Meditation is, in the human body, that we should be able to see the higher regions of consciousness without disturbing the body, keeping it still intact. Dying while living means living in the physical body while having those experiences. So therefore, the intention is not to stop the body from functioning. The body will function, all the vital functions will be there, and we are still able to go to higher levels because we are ignoring that part of the mind which we don't want to put our attention on. We move our attention up and we don't move the rest of the structure. There was a lady doctor. Her name was Dr. Shakuntala. She lived in Kapurthala, same town where Dr. Ishwar Singh lived. And she liked Great Master. She liked his beard. She liked his royal face. She liked how he walked. She liked him as a man. And she respected him, but didn't believe him. She didn't believe in the path of the masters at all. She was a professional medical doctor and said, there is no soul. There is no such thing. All these are made up. These are power of suggestion, that we create all these things. And so she didn't bother about these, but she still would come to the Dera to meet him and greet him and say, I like you. If you need any medical help, I can give you. Or anybody else needs medical help, I will give you. But I can't believe this stuff that you talk about. I don't like your satsangs. I can only meet you after satsang. One day, there was a BB, out of 3 BBs who attended on the Great Master. One was the one who went and lived outside and was doing work, making chapatis in the langar. Her name was Bibi Rakhi. And she was a very advanced soul. Every day, meditational experiences, she would go very high. One day, she was sitting in meditation in a little hut and began to scream. Loud screaming, like she's in great pain. And we were her neighbors in the Dera. Our house was just next to hers. We all ran out, other neighbors ran out to see what has happened to the BB. And we tried to stop her from screaming, tried to console. She kept on screaming without opening her eyes. Something has gone seriously wrong. So we ran to the Great Master, whose house was next door. He came out. He came out and he saw the BB and he said, call Dr. Shakuntala to look at this BB. This is the time. Send a car and bring that doctor here. So the car was sent and the skeptic, non-believing Dr. Shakuntala came up. And Great Master says, Doctor, look at this BB. She is in hell. And try to see if she can come out of the hell. Master, she is in a very deep trouble. How can you talk that she is in hell? She is in hell because of her trouble, physical trouble. And everybody tried to open. He says, you try to make her get up from the screaming. Doctor tried and failed. Then Great Master said, Bibi, come out. And she stopped screaming. And she came out and put her heads on the feet of the Master. He says, what happened to you? She said, I went to hell. And I saw actual live hell in the astral plane. Why did you go there? Out of curiosity. Just wanted to see. But did they hurt you? No. Then why were you screaming? I was screaming at what I was seeing other people being treated like. There was so much torture going on there. I couldn't help it. This actual incident made that doctor think there may be something in this teaching. Anyway, she went back. A few days later, the BB, same BB, was walking, and her foot happened to put on a gourd, I don't know, gourd, what do you call gourd? Jaggery, the round ball of jaggery they use for eating, for sugar. It's raw sugar. And the piece of raw sugar was there, and she somehow stepped in and went into her room for meditation and didn't get out for a couple of days. So we were worried. We broke open the door of her baby, that she might have died inside. She had not opened the door for 2 days. And we found that that sweet sitting on her foot was being eaten by the ants. And the ants had even eaten up part of the heel of the body. She was almost like dead. But she was in a state of meditation. We were very worried. We called Great Master again. And we said, Master, this baby is probably dying. And look, she's not even aware that her own heel is being eaten up by little insects, by ants. He said, call Dr. Shakuntala from Kapurthala, send the car, let her come. In post haste, the doctor comes. And Great Master says, Doctor, examine this baby. What is happening to her? She said, she is in deep coma because she is completely unaware of what's happening to the body. Body is being eaten up and she doesn't know. This is called deep coma. And she won't get out of it. You move her to the main hospital in Lahore immediately. Doctor said, I think she's going into Khan-Brahmand, into higher regions. Master, this is no time for jokes. This is no time for talking like this. This lady is in such deep trouble, almost going to die, should be taken to hospital, and you are saying she is going into higher regions? And this is a cruel joke. Master said, no, but I can ask the baby, she'll tell you. So how can you ask? She is in deep coma. Master said, when the coma is so deep, medical coma is so deep, and do the vital forces, the reactions disappear? Oh, they get lowered. Check her vital systems. Heartbeat is all right, Master. Blood pressure is all right, Master. Temperature is all right, Master. What about the reflexes? So she took out a little hammer and she, oh, reflexes are normal also. She says, how can it be everything is normal? And the case is of deep coma. Do these two things go together? No, Master, I've never seen a case like this. The first case, it is more serious than I thought. Take her immediately to hospital. Master said, but I am going to ask her to tell us what she is seeing. Said, Master, you can't wake her up like this. She'll need a lot of treatment, maybe in coma for days, weeks. Then Master said, Bibi, come out. And the Bibi opened her eyes. He said, what have you been seeing? Oh, Master, thank you. I was going into those higher regions. He described the whole description of the astral causal stages to everybody. And that's the first day that Dr. Shakuntala began to believe that there is some truth in the teachings of Great Master. So I'm telling you this story to tell you how we are retaining the body. Higher experiences, if we want to have them permanently, we leave everything. They disappear. We are dying while living, which means the body is still functioning. The vital forces remain the same. Everything functions. We touch upon those centers of awareness, which opens up the experiences of the higher regions. It does not mean that we really die and leave the body. It only means we have an ability to have experiences of dying while living. We have experiences of going to the highest region, including such Khand, while we are still having a physical body that is alive. So just keep in mind, we don't die. We don't really die. People have done meditation and reached such Khand and are still alive and kicking and they move around. Because that experience comes by taking the attention to the different points available in the physical body, which connect us with those experiences of the higher regions. So that's what we do. Of course, when we go and never want to come back, then we never have another body, we never have another mind, we never have another astral body. We stay in our home unless we change our mind again. But how can we change our mind? We have no mind there. But we have will. We have will, but no mind. We'll be back at 3 o'clock. Thank you.